Hey everybody, welcome to Vinyl Fetish. We're going to do a series of how-to videos to help people who are starting out becoming record collectors. I'm Randy, Andy's behind the camera. Hi Andy. And so today we're going to talk about something very simple, how to play a record. Which may sound crazy to some folks, but some folks have grown up with MP3s or CDs, have never actually played a record, so we're going to go through the process of how to play a record, right? So here we go. So the first thing is you want to get a record. You want to go to a record store. Maybe you're going to get a used record that's already open, or maybe you're going to get a new one. So for this demonstration, I bought the new Corrina Repp record. Corrina is a Portlander. This is her 6th album, I think. It's called How a Fantasy Will Kill Us All. Great kind of acoustic artist in Portland. So this is, it's shrink wrapped, and it has the sticker, got it at Music Millennium. And so what we're going to do is first we're going to open it, and one of the things that happens is when people get new records, sometimes they just destroy them opening the shrink wrap. Having worked in a record store for years and opened a zillion records, I'll tell you one of the tricks on this is to rub it on your thigh, and it loosens up the shrink wrap just a little bit. Just enough that you can get your thumbnail, and you need to have a thumbnail. Everybody that works in a record store has one thumbnail. Just slide it in and gently open it up and pry it open. Okay, here we go. This is the opening of an unopened record, very important. Pull out the inner sleeve. And you never know, sometimes there are other things in records like posters or advertisements, but you want to pull it out.
You're not doing a very good job.
All right. And then we have the inner sleeve, and so being very careful with this. And so this is the record player that we're using. This is a Project. It's a Austrian model, and it is belt driven. And we could do a debate on what's better, direct drive or belt drive. I prefer belt drive. And some people take, I think it's very in style right now to have the dust cover off. If you live in a dusty environment, which is anywhere on earth, I would suggest keeping the dust cover on to keep the dust off records. But some people think it's more aesthetically pleasing to have the dust cover off. I'd say keep it on. And then we want to slide out using gravity as your friend. Oh, look at this colored vinyl. I thought it was going to be black, but it's this nice colored vinyl, which is very popular now. Now this is this next step. First of all, you want to hold it like this. Don't get your fingers on it, because the oil on your fingers will get into the grooves and will cause problems later. So you want to try to hold it like this, like a nice plate of salad.
Show us.
See, it's level. See, I'm touching the inner label and the outer, trying to not get my fingers on it. And then one of the things I want to say, it's important, and I don't think a lot of young people might get this, to figure out what side 1 and side 2 is. Because the artist puts a lot of care into thinking of the flow of the music, what the record starts off with. And so if you just plop it down and you start it on side 2, you're really kind of starting in the middle of their vision. So you want to be careful of what side 1. And as I got older, I now need glasses. Sometimes it's side A. Okay, this is side A. This is side B. I'm guessing based on my poor vision. And put it on the turntable through the spindle. So we're now officially taking this Virgin record center and de-virginizing it.
Do you really have to say it like that?
No, well, there's some people that think of it that way. That's how they can tell if a record's been played or not, is by looking at the spindle hole to see if it's been penetrated. Sorry for that, children. And so we've got it on the turntable. And on this turntable, you turn it on underneath and gently setting it on the beginning. And so there is a trick, because sometimes there is a little lip on the end of the vinyl, and if you put it too far to the right, it'll slip off like that. So that is too far. So what you want to do is find that magic spot and make sure there's no dust on the needle. And we'll set it down and we'll start track 1. With the leaf blowers in the background. Okay, so that's the end of side 1. And each side is roughly about 20 minutes, and they're meant to be enjoyed as a side. CDs I think are way too long, but that's a discussion for another day. So we turn off the turntable. You don't want to take the record off while it's still spinning, because that will strip the other side. And we want it, again, be careful not to put your fingers on it. Flip it over. Do you see that little move? Boop, 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 boop. I never actually touched it. Set it back down, and then we will go through side 2 the same way and have the same listening experience on this 20 plus minutes.
You're bouncing all over the place.
Well, you have to figure it out. Each record is a little bit different on how it starts, so you get to know the vinyl of that record. And we start again on side 2. Cool. That's the end of Corrina Repp's new album. Very Portland. I dig it. I'll be listening to a lot this fall. So I have to say that some turntables will automatically lift up the tone arm and bring it back. This is a manual turntable, so you have to physically lift the arm and bring it back. You want to be really careful, because you could drag the needle across the record, and then you've got problems with your needle and the record. So if you're using a manual tone arm like this, be very careful about how you lift it up and bring it back, because there's nothing worse. It's like fingers on a chalkboard, the sound of a needle being dragged across the record. So again, lifting it up, no fingers, putting it back into the inner sleeve, to be enjoyed for another day. Corrina, well done. Let's see if there's anything else in here. Oh, there's some goodies. There's some information about her, and a digital download, which is something that you get a lot now when you buy vinyl. It says, "Greetings, lovers of vinyl. Thank you for your purchase." Very nice. And you put everything back in, nice and neat. Now, some people have a preference for how they put the sleeve back in. Some people like to put the open end on the outside of the record jacket like this, so they can just sort of tilt it over and slide the record. I'm a little clumsy, if you haven't figured out, and I worry that I might pick up a record and the record falls out on the floor, so I always return it back in with the open side up, so I don't accidentally dump a nice vinyl record on the floor. I put it back, putting back the goodies, saving the goodies, because, you know, as my mom would say, there'll be worth something someday. And then finding a place to catalog it in your collection. I store everything upstairs in our vinyl attic that you've seen, and I like to store everything by genre and alphabetical. So Corrina Repp will go in the R's of rock, but for now we'll put her right here, because we'll be playing some more of her at the end of summer. So that's it. Q&As, any questions? Andy, do you have any questions about this as someone who grew up with CDs about playing records?
Yes, I do. Okay.
Here we go.
So the dusty thing, do you dust the...
Good point.
You didn't even talk about that.
I didn't even talk about that. So when a record is new, it's dust free. It's virgin vinyl. But
can we not refer to it as virgin vinyl?
Virgins don't have to be sexual.
Yeah, they do.
I grew up in a Catholic country, so it means something very different. But once it's been played a few times, it's going to collect some dust, especially if you don't have a dust cover. So it's really good to use, it's like a broom. It's
How do you use it?
So let me show you on another piece of vinyl that's been played a few times. We'll pick out this Pointer Sisters album,
okay,
which I really like. I'm kind of rediscovering this group. So this record has been around for a little bit, and you can see that there's some dust on it. I'm still not putting my fingers on it, but I'll put it on the turntable and I'll start it up, because I can do this with a belt driven, and I use the brush in a counterclockwise direction to brush the dust off, to make sure.
Can you just keep it on there and let the... Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to get it off. You have to get it off, otherwise it ends up in a big pile. You also want to check your needle too, to make sure there's no dust, because sometimes if you play a dusty record, there's some dust that can collect on the needle, and that completely ruins the sound. So
you just pick it up with your finger?
Very gently. Some people have needle brushes. I just try to very gently pull any dust bunnies off the needle.
Okay. Okay, another question. Is it bad when you leave the needle in the middle, like when the record's over, if you leave it there a long time, will it hurt
leave the needle on the actual physical
Yeah,
record?
like as it's spinning and it's like over.
Well, needles are made of diamonds and they wear down and they have to be replaced. And you'll start to tell when your needle starts to make the record sound a little dull. So the more that it spins on vinyl, the more wear there is going to be on the needle. So it's in your interest, unless you want to be replacing needles on a fairly regular basis, to limit the amount of time it just sort of spins with no music playing. So I would pick it up soon. Some people find that that sound of the spinning record at the end some type of satisfying, like zen ambient noise. It drives me crazy. I have to leap up and pick it up because I want to save the needle for as long as possible.
And last question.
Yes.
When you look at vinyl, are there any hidden messages in there ever?
Well, they're all. I mean, the old days we used to play records backwards to find secret messages in Beatles records and Black Sabbath records. But every record has a sort of history of its mastering, of where the actual pressing was made. And so when you get something that's a first edition, kind of like a first edition of a book, sometimes on the inner groove there'll be messages written. And sometimes they're just catalog numbers, but sometimes they're actually from the artist, messages to girlfriends or secret messages to look for in the music. So sometimes it's worth, when you're looking at vinyl, to look at the inner groove, as it's called, to see if there's anything written. Occasionally you'll find something really interesting there. Not on this Pointer Sisters record.
Anything else?
Oh yeah, there is actually on this Pointer Sisters record. I need my glasses to read it. But yeah, there's something written right here.
Okay, anything else you want to add on how to play a record?
Yeah, the more you treat your records with respect, the longer they'll last. And the longer they will sound as they were meant to sound on the original day. There are little tricks. If you have a record with a skip, and we learned that, if you put a nickel on the tone arm, sometimes it'll help play records that are skipping. Now we just sort of rebalance the record, or rebalance the tone arm. But taking care of the records, keeping your fingers off of them, and keeping your lunch off of them. When I was...
keeping your cocaine off of them?
And your cocaine off of them, if you're in the 70s. When I was a kid and didn't know any better, I washed off the dust of my records with a wet rag. That is not something you should do, because water will destroy the vinyl. So don't do that. Don't do what I did when I was 12. Get a nice little brush and try not to blow too much onto records, because that ultimately you end up spitting on the record and that hurts. So use a brush and love your records and they will love you.